Fertility. I'm really excited for today's episode. Today's episode is a little bit different from my other episodes. Today we have a special guest with us, Megan Wolf. Megan is a former patient of mine, and she's here to tell her story from low AMH diagnosis and infertility to a positive pregnancy test. And what inspired me to ask Megan to come on is because I was talking to a lot of women, and multiple people told me how helpful it is to hear other women's stories. So I'm really so thankful that Megan agreed to come on and share her story. And yeah, I'm really just going to let Megan share it. I'm going to take a back seat today. So welcome again, Megan.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you. So to get started, can you tell me a little bit about how your fertility journey started?
I'm 36 years old. I've been with my now fiance for the last 6 years, and we both always knew that we wanted children. It's just I'm 2 years older than him, so I think I was a little bit ready before he was. So when we started talking about it, we were considering potentially checking my AMH, just because it was something that I'd heard about. I had heard that you could have weird numbers, and that's just a really great thing to gauge everything off of when it comes to timing, to try to time your fertility correctly. So I ordered one of those at-home AMH testing kits, and I did that around the age of 34. When I got the results back, it said that I had slightly low AMH, which we luckily have a OBGYN in the family. And he told me, don't worry about it, slightly low is not that big of a deal. All it takes is one. You should be fine. At the age of 34, I just wanted to check AMH just to see, because it's something that I'd heard among friend groups and figured I'd give it a shot. So by like 35, I was starting at a new company where I had a fertility benefit through a company called Carrot Fertility. And they give you a pretty large bank account where you can use it for any type of fertility at all. At this point, we were still not 100% ready to start trying, but I was starting to get nervous because 35 is everyone's, favorite number to talk about how your fertility just starts to tank.
Yeah,
It's really fun to hear that from everyone. So I talked to my fiance about it, and he was like, well, would you be interested in like freezing embryos? He has a sister who has a wife, and they did embryo transfers together as a lesbian couple, and it worked out really well. We have a beautiful niece because of it. So I really trusted that process because I watched them go through it kind of seamlessly. So we figured, let's go ahead and just see what this is about, especially because it's paid for. So we went and we found a fertility clinic. We went and had my AMH tested again, but now through a specialty fertility clinic. And they told me my AMH was abysmal. It was very low, completely on the downside of everything. And if we wanted kids, that we needed to start trying IVF right now.
Are you open to sharing what your AMH level was?
Yeah, I think it was a 0.13.
Okay.
Yeah. So I guess standard is 2. I don't remember. But so they just told us that it was really low. That instilled a ton of fear. We, again, weren't trying then. We just kind of wanted to bank a couple embryos just for backup. And then we would try naturally probably in the next 6 months to a year. We were just kind of in a transition point of our life. But that really stoked the fire. We were terrified that we weren't going to be able to have kids. And so when we told them that we wanted not only 1, but 2 kids, they said we were going to have to do 4 rounds of IVF to even potentially achieve 2 children.
Wow.
That was some pretty devastating news considering that bank account we had is not going to cover all 4 rounds of that.
Of course. Can I ask you, did they ask about your diet, lifestyle, or anything else going on in your life?
No.
Give any advice to what to do besides IVF or even to support your body through IVF?
No. The only thing they told us was to try a Mediterranean diet, which I thought was pretty hysterical because I feel like that's a diet trend and a losing weight type of trend. Didn't really seem like it was aimed towards fertility by any means. So no, there was no suggestion. I was already a pretty healthy person. I worked out. I did HIIT exercises 4 times a week, weighted walks throughout my neighborhood on hills. Definitely was a runner before I started doing HIIT. So in my mind, I was eating smoothies, salads, cooking chicken, doing everything healthy. Why would my numbers be so low?
Yeah.
So it didn't really matter because now we were terrified. So we decided to move forward with the process. Long story short, throughout everything we did, we got 1 viable egg, just 1. Through all the shots, all the triggers, all the things we did every night where my fiance is sticking my stomach with tons of needles and drugs.
Right.
At the end of the day, we only got one mature egg. We were lucky and that egg did technically turn into a blast. The only thing that we kind of didn't really love about that scenario was that it blasts off on day 6. And in the world of IVF, if it doesn't blast before day 5, they can't do any genetic testing. And for us, since we were doing all of this stuff, spending all this money, we wanted to know that that embryo was going to be viable. But we didn't get to do that. So we just had to freeze it as an embryo. I'm hopeful that that little embryo is healthy today, but we don't actually know. But we got the one embryo and that was it. And we were devastated. And during that waiting period of seeing if it was even going to work, our doctor told us that we probably realistically only had a 20% chance of that egg even turning into an embryo at all.
Wow. How'd that make you feel?
Awful.
Absolutely
awful. It was like they had given me the proof that low AMH meant no baby for you.
Yeah, so I'm going to pause you there just to clarify for our audience, if people are new to me or my work or fertility, AMH has no correlation to your ability to get pregnant naturally, and this is seen through many research studies. AMH is a predictor of how many follicles show up that month. It's not a predictor of your egg count. And there's many dormant follicles that everyone has every month that do not show up. That's not measured in your AMH levels, right? So your AMH levels have no correlation to your ability to get pregnant naturally. But the only reason I would say you would use AMH levels is to decide if you are a good candidate for IVF or not. And if your AMH levels are low, that means you're not a good candidate because you're likely not going to get a lot of eggs the same way Megan only got one.
All information that I wish I'd learned from Katherine before this entire thing.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, all information your doctor should have given you too. Right. It's absolutely not your fault. This is medical information that I really think should be provided from your medical provider.
I agree. There's a lot of things that I think need to be a little bit more on the forefront of these conversations before thousands and thousands of dollars are happening to
absolutely
hopes up of couples trying to have a kid.
Right, absolutely. So you end up with one egg. I met you somewhere in between, while you were doing your egg freezing, right? What inspired you to try naturally or to reach out to me to begin with?
So during this time, my fiance and I were like, there's no way we're doing 4 rounds of IVF. We don't, one, have the money for that, nor do I want to be putting my body through that many times. And the fact that we only got one viable egg, what are the odds that I'm going to get more the next 3 rounds? So since we had technically never tried naturally, we knew that we had our one embryo banked and that now we could try naturally. And if things didn't work, then we could go use our one embryo and be hopeful that that worked from there. During that time, I've always been a pretty holistic person. Western medicine, I believe in a lot for many things. I think it's great. I think it saves lives. I'm going to deliver my baby in a hospital, but with a midwife. So I find that I need a very large balance of things. I like a holistic diet. I like holistic medicine. I like meditation. If I break my arm, I'm going to go to the doctor. At this time for me, I knew it was time to start looking through different channels. My sister-in-law actually found your page and sent it to me because she knew what I was going through. And I started watching your videos, deep dived into the group Fermagee program and paid for the smaller subscription and realized, oh my gosh, there's so many things I just don't know about fertility and that I've been kind of blindly led through in Western medicine. So that's kind of how I found you at first and decided that I think this is something I need to look into.
Megan started in my monthly membership program and then she transitioned into my group program. I'm curious, did you have any hesitations about working more closely together one-to-one? Was there anything that you felt a little bit skeptical about?
I did. I just spent so much money on IVF and I only got one embryo and I thought, is this really going to be the thing I'm going to do? I'm going to find this, who I thought, very cool lady online on Instagram, but I'm going to give her a bunch of my money and she's going to get me pregnant. And I get that. I totally get that. There is this kind of underlying feeling, though, I think, as a woman who's trying to get pregnant. I wouldn't call it desperation. I would definitely call it extreme hope. And I think that when you've reached a limit where you've felt like you've hit a wall a million times, there's something that happens in you where you find alignment with something and you're like, this feels right. So after we met one-on-one for the first time, And I think I told you, I just needed a day to think about it, see if I wanted to commit to the program. And I thought to myself, why would I not? I just gave this doctor who was like, I'm not going to give you any advice, and you're just going to come in here and take anesthesia, and I'm going to see what happens, a bunch of money. Why wouldn't I give somebody who comes to me with like a very caring heart, with someone that has a ton of knowledge about this particular area, and give it a shot? And so I took a risk, but it was a risk that felt right and a risk that felt very informed, which Western medicine did not feel informed.
Yeah, I understand that. And I also understand your skepticism. I probably would have felt the same way. You know, when I first found Chinese medicine, it was through a sports injury, but I had the same feelings as you. I was like, I have spent so much money on doctors and PT and chiropractic work and like all of this shit. Like, this is what's going to help me. But at the same time, I was like, well, I've spent so much money. What's like a little bit more at the end of the day? Fixed my injury, found Chinese medicine and all of that. So I just think it's funny how things align like that. So when we first started working together, what were your hopes? What did you expect to happen?
So my hopes were like anybody else, I think, that joins your program. I hope that I come into this and I leave pregnant. That's the biggest hope, right? At the end of the day, we come to you for fertility. My expectations were that you would give me information that I hadn't learned before, things and perspectives that I hadn't seen, stuff that I could do to help my fertility. Those were my first expectations. Everything was all around baby and fixing fertility.
Right. Yeah, makes sense. And so what were some of the biggest changes that you made?
So I think some of the largest changes that I made was learning that fertility is not just about fertility. And I think you don't really understand what that means until you go through your program or through something like your program. Because I had learned so many things about my body, about my mental health, about the way I process grief, stress, happiness. There were so many things that were tied to my fertility that I had no idea had a correlation whatsoever. I had been seeing a naturopath before I saw you, and you saw all the vitamins I was taking for stress and for helping me sleep and for helping my gut. And I had done so many different things, and I was scared to get off some of these vitamins because I thought they were truly helping my life. And at one point, I'm sure they were. I had like a B12 deficiency, but there were just so many things that I had never approached. The way I lived, the way I ate, the way I worked out, the way I took time for myself, the way I communicated with my partner, the way I communicated with my family members, the way I took time to think about things instead of maybe acting and rushing through them. And those things I had no idea we were going to cover when I signed up for this program. Again, it became from like baby and fertility to like holistic well-being of life.
Right. I mean, a lot of women, when I work with them, there is at least some point where they're like, wait, are we still working on my fertility?
Yeah.
Right? A lot of times it doesn't seem like you are, because we're really working on your overall health, and a side effect of your overall health is fertility at the end of the day. So of the changes you made, are there any that you feel like were the most impactful for you?
So the craziest thing for me, and I will say, this was like a really nice full circle moment. Katherine loves to look at things on a very individual level, which for me was the best, because you could easily get into one of these programs and be like, oh, we're all being told the same thing. And there are some things that are, universal.
Yeah.
But if you've ever done Chinese medicine or you're going to do Chinese medicine, no, they're just going to look at your tongue. And that was weird. I was like, what can you know about my tongue? But I have an affinity for spicy food. I will put spice on everything. Onions and garlic, I eat them in everything. I had no idea how much inflammation I had in my body and how much I was drying it out by eating these things all the time. And that when I wasn't dealing with stress and then I would go to like a HIIT workout, I was like fighting stress with more stress. That never made sense to me. I never like put two and two together. But there were so many little things that I learned individually that would help me. And so my diet changed. We stopped eating any type of onion in the house or garlic in the house whatsoever. Andrew was very like, all right, whatever we got to do. I stopped putting hot sauce on everything, which was a hard transition. But back to the full circle moment is like in my first trimester of pregnancy, I couldn't cook or eat anything in my house. So I was eating hot sauce again, definitely had onions, definitely had garlic, like all those things. But I knew that once I started to feel better, I can eliminate those things again.
Right.
And I could get that inflammation out of my body and it would be just fine. And that's a mindset shift, because you know that like you're in control of your life, the way you live, how you feel. You start paying attention to what feels good, what doesn't feel good. And before your course, I didn't have this like deep intuition or like knowing of my body.
Yeah. So do you feel like you have the tools now to, really take care of your health on your own?
Absolutely. I think that now it's, again, like this paying attention that seems to be in the background of my mind all the time, where before I'd have to tap into that to be like, okay, what's going on? Now it's like if I eat something that makes me upset or my stomach hurts, or if I have an emotion that I haven't dealt with, I'm like, oh, I haven't figured that out right now. And I should probably just take a minute to like think through that. And things just kind of leave easier than they used to. I can say no to a food because I'm like, that's just not going to feel good, even if it tastes good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's from a place of feeling good and not from a place of restriction. So your tongue is a reflection of your internal health. And in Chinese medicine, like there's a whole tongue map, there's size and color and texture and like everything. There's so many ways to look at the tongue. But when I first saw Megan's tongue, I was literally in shock by how much heat it had in it. In Chinese medicine, heat is a loose translation of inflammation, but it is like literal heat in your body. So a big thing of what we did with Megan in terms of diet was cut out onion, garlic, spicy food, and coffee, because those are the main contributors. But then Megan was also doing other things to contribute to heat in her body, such as high intensity workouts and a lot of stress and anxiety being stored. So those were all things we worked on to eliminate the heat in her body. And if I were to show you her tongue before and after, it's like absolutely amazing. It looks like two completely different tongues. Maybe if you're okay with it, I'll put it up at some point. But it's so crazy how your body shifts when you make these small changes. Did the changes that I have you make, did it ever feel like too much, or you were giving up the things that you loved? Was there any resistance to it?
No, the best part about it is too, because when you start telling like your friends and your family, like, oh, I'm in this Chinese medicine course and like I'm doing all these things, they're like, oh, wow, that sounds like you're drinking weird tea and you're not eating onions anymore. And it's like, for the most part, but I am a person that cooks a lot. And so I'm at home a lot. So I'm definitely in control. But Katherine was always a huge proponent of letting us know, like, hey, you're going to a wedding this weekend, go have a glass of wine and that spicy taco. Like, you're going to go visit your mom and you're going to go get ice cream. Like, have the ice cream, because the restriction is the stress that you put on yourself for like not saying yes and telling yourself no when you really want it. So at home, it felt really easy to be like, this doesn't make me feel good. And I'm on a path right now where if I eliminate these things, I probably will feel better. And then the proof was in the pudding. So for people who are skeptical, I think they think these types of programs are all very like, for lack of a better term, like woo-woo. But sure, you will see the output from what you put in. Like eliminating, I hope you put my tongue on this podcast because it's just truly crazy.
It is truly crazy. I'll have to find the pictures, but I will. Did you feel like anything shift for you emotionally and mentally during our work together or after?
Yeah, that was another really big one. So I definitely grew up as an anxious attachment kind of kid. It's definitely trickled into my adult life, the way I communicate with my partner, friends, if I have altercation. But what's really nice is that I learned how to not just let go, because that feels way too broad, but it's like this feeling of the end of the day, I just need to check in with me. How am I feeling? If I am like having, let's say, like an altercation with like something with my partner, it's like, okay, well, where's it coming from? And before, I don't think I ever looked for the root. It was like, this is the thing, this is the disagreement, and like, we're not getting over it, so we're in this loop. When before, I would have just struggled in that dynamic for so long. Now I'm like given this opportunity of perspective of like going deeper, like, okay, where's it coming from? Am I just feeling anxious because this is something that I haven't worked through? And this is something that stems maybe from my childhood, from, you know, my parents somehow. And it gives me the ability to take a step back, refocus, go, oh, this isn't what's happening like now. Right. This is something that's old, that's presenting itself currently. And to be able to look at that dynamic over and over again with the help of like being in a program like this, you start recognizing those patterns. So then they slowly start to dissolve and you're not stuck in this like weird hamster wheel of like, I'm never going to feel better. I'm never going to be able to figure out why I can't communicate this better, or why am I holding on to this for so long?
Yeah, that's a really beautiful explanation. Thank you for sharing that. And I think that's a really good point. Healing our mindset and our emotions, it doesn't happen in a week or even a month or even 3 months, to be honest. It's a lifelong process. But the more you do it, the less these triggers come up, the more you know what to do and you know what to work with them. And the beautiful thing I love about teaching this to women in fertility is that now you can teach this to your child too. You can now raise an emotionally secure child who understands to look at their feelings, that feels okay throwing a tantrum and knows their mom's going to be there to love them, right? Like that's the most beautiful part about this work.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
breaking that generational trauma.
Right. Exactly. I am curious to go back to the beginning. Why did you feel like at 35 that, your eggs were shriveling up into raisins?
Because of everything we consume. It's
Yeah.
another really important thing I think I learned in your program. In this day and age where technology is in our face 24/7, I work from home, I'm in tech, so I'm always on my computer. And then when I'm not on my computer, I'm on my Instagram. And then when I'm not on my Instagram, my best friend's on her Instagram and she's sending me something. There's a ton to consume. As soon as your algorithm catches whiff of literally anything you might be interested in, your whole feed just turns into this crazy thing of all these horror stories or what doesn't work and all these struggles. And I think the long-standing conversation of your eggs decline at 35 is something unfortunately we all have been told, and that's without the internet. And now with the help of the internet, you just see all these things where you're this is going to be an uphill battle. And did I wait too long? Was this a mistake? Did I really just kind of screw myself over because I wanted to travel in my 20s and in my early 30s and go do all these really fun things without kids? And then now when I want them, I've messed up. It's almost like this guilt trip you get. And so you think that there's this sense of urgency and this timeline that if you miss it, you're going to miss the boat.
Do you still feel that way? I mean, I know you want to have more than one child, so.
No,
not
at all.
Perfect. Yeah, it's interesting. So I was only 30 when I started my trying to conceive journey, and I was 32 when I got pregnant with my first child. But my mom had me naturally at 37, and to my knowledge had no struggle. My brother's just 2 years younger than me, so she did have a struggle that really was not a long one. So I don't feel like I ever grew up with this, you have to have a baby at a certain age. I actually thought I was going to be a young mother. And truthfully, in my community, in a lot of ways, I am a young mother in New York City. But it's interesting how our mindset's shaped by the stories that we're told and the things we see. And in a lot of ways, we can use that, right? You can use your Instagram feed to tell you all these stories about how at 35 you become infertile, or you can use it to look at all the stories of women at 35, 40, and 45, 47 having babies now, right? We get to choose what we look at. We get to choose the information that we take in. So just wanted to put that out there. So you got pregnant 3 months, almost at the end of our group program together. When you found out you were pregnant, what was going through your mind at that moment?
That was the craziest moment. So another thing, just for your viewers, as a small insight into me, because hopefully this resonates with others. So I've always had a very short luteal phase, and that was something I wanted to work on with Katherine, and she said, that's no problem. There's plenty of ways to make that longer. We'll do it. I took Chinese herbs. Again, the heat and the inflammation in my body, getting rid of that helped. But we tried 2 times, and the second time we tried, we got pregnant.
Yeah, and tell us everyone about your cycle the second time. What was different?
So the second time, it technically wasn't that much longer. I think, what is it? A typical luteal phase should be around
14 days. Yeah.
So I think I got mine to 12 or 11. It was 11 or 12, but it was consistently 9. Sometimes it was 8, maybe 10 on a good month. But I watched it change over those first 2 months, even by a day. And it wasn't even just the change of the length of the luteal phase. It was the symptoms that I wasn't having anymore by the time we were about to get pregnant. At first, I was having weird cramps and shedding, but I would guess a lot of that was due to IVF, putting my body through all those drugs, my body trying to come back to homeostasis. And so I was definitely, I'm one of those people that used a lot of gadgets. Katherine doesn't think you use the gadgets. I just personally really liked them.
Megan has used every gadget. If anyone needs information on tracking mucus, I
still wear the Oura ring, but I barely look at it. I look at it now to see my sleep, just to be oh, how much did I wake up last night?
Yeah.
Pregnant, I wake up to pee
sure.
But I did watch just a lot of like incremental change. So wasn't getting bloated, wasn't having cramps. Like my periods were like just red blood and not like sheddy and clotty and weird. I never had a ton of that, but I did after IVF. So it was just nice to see my body reacting to all the work that we'd put into it.
A lot of women ask me if I don't take lab tests, how do you know that this is working? And that's how, right? Your body is always talking to you and communicating to you, and your body will also communicate when it's going in the right direction by these small shifts and these small changes. So the month that you did get pregnant, I do remember though that you actually ovulated a few days later. Is that correct?
I
Yeah.
did.
So,
I ovulated on day 17, actually.
and you still got pregnant. And I just want to highlight that your cycle does not have to be perfect to get pregnant. When I work with women, that's like always the goal, is to regulate your cycle and make it as close to perfect as possible. But I do like to also highlight these stories that things do not have to be perfect and you can still get pregnant, because I do think there can be a lot of fear out there over small things being off. And those small things are your body communicating to you, and always a good idea to look at them, but it does not mean you can't get pregnant.
Right. And it was so funny because I thought too, through tracking it all, like we technically also got pregnant with like day 5 sperm. That's another like huge
Trying once. Yes.
Yeah, where people are like, oh, it's not going to work. And it worked then too. So it definitely has to do with this, I don't know, being in this place where you're comfortable and there's not a lot of pressure. The first month we tried, I think I was like, it's the first time, I'm really excited. There's kind of a lot of pressure because I finally feel like my body's like getting into this place. I wasn't devastated by any means, but I was like, damn, like I've been working so hard. Like it's fine. It's the first time, whatever. But then I changed my mental health to focus on right now, it's lengthening my luteal phase. That's my goal. Lengthen the luteal phase, feel good in your body, continue doing everything that you've been doing because you're already seeing the change in your tongue, in your period, the way you feel. I wasn't as tired anymore because I wasn't doing super intense workouts. There were so many things pointing me to like, you're on your way. And then when I released attachment to it, we got pregnant that month.
Yeah, I love that. The mental side coming into play. I do think that has a big part. There's so much constriction and restriction when all you have in your mind is, I have to get pregnant this month. If I don't get pregnant this month, like it's the end of the world. And again, it's okay to think these thoughts, and it's okay to go through these emotions, right? These things come up and that's okay. But it's, how can you shift away from that? How can you find more ease and more joy in your daily life and put less pressure on this one out? Yeah. Beautiful. So how do you look at fertility now, and what did this experience teach you about your body?
So fertility now, again, like I had mentioned earlier, I thought fertility was like a box. Fertility meant this is the thing we have to focus on, this little area. And what do we do to fix this box? But what I really learned, and my biggest takeaway, is fertility is your entire body. It's everything that goes into your body, your mental health, the food, the way you show up in the world, the joy you have, like the sadness that you're storing. Those things all impact your body in ways that I don't think most women think about. I think a lot of us think about, it's the box. How do I just fix this part of the box?
Right.
And looking at the body holistically and putting a lot into your mind and to meditating. And I know not everyone has the easiest time meditating, but even if you sit in your room and you have, 3 minutes in the morning to just focus on, okay, today's going to be a good day and I'm going to welcome my highest good and I'm going to feel as best to my ability as I can. Like even that simple change is different than starting out, going downstairs, not drinking any water, putting coffee into an empty stomach, and then jumping into work.
Right.
Those shifts were big for me.
And so what would you say to a woman who feels like she's running out of time? Because a lot of women around your age feel like they're running out of time.
I would say that you need to really think about, this is something also that Katherine taught me. This is a fun one, and hopefully I'm not giving a freebie away in one of your...
Okay, go for it.
She asked us, I think this was one of the first appointments we had, like, how does it feel when you think you're running out of time and you can't get pregnant? And to me, that feels terrible. It feels awful.
Yeah, and everyone listening can close their eyes and just ask themselves, I'm
how does it feel
I'm running out of time. How does that feel?
How does that make you feel? And it makes you feel awful. Or at least it made me feel awful. And the majority of the women in the room made them feel awful. And that's because that's not our truth. We don't believe that to be true. In a simple way to practice this is like Katherine asked me, Megan, how much do you love your platinum blonde hair? I don't have platinum blonde hair. That feels really weird.
Yeah. Megan has brown hair for anyone who's not visually watching this.
Right. I have dark brown hair. And so it's just like this cue that you can tune into your body to be like, that's not real. That's not true. And so if feeling like you're running out of time, that you're not going to get pregnant, doesn't feel good to you, and it doesn't feel right, it's because it's probably not. And I think that's part of that intuition that we kind of just take for granted that we all have, or that we're just so not used to paying attention to. So for anyone that thinks that, if it feels wrong in your body, that you're running out of time and that you're not going to get pregnant, know that that's probably not true. There are so many ways to heal your body, and so many ways that you probably aren't taught, aren't told, because unfortunately it seems that Western medicine methodologies are pushed across to everyone first. And so that's what makes Chinese medicine or holistic naturopathic medicine just seem kind of, I don't know, is that out of touch? When really we've been getting pregnant since the beginning of time, when we didn't have IVF and we didn't have drugs and we didn't have all these things to make it happen. Like, know that it's a natural part of life, and that your body, like she always told us, your body wants to get pregnant. It wants to get pregnant because that's just what it's supposed to do every single month of your life until you hit menopause.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Megan. Yeah, it's interesting. I think sometimes people think of Chinese medicine or quote unquote alternative medicine, although I will never call it alternative medicine, is woo-woo. And truthfully, like, I wish it was more woo-woo. Like, I love woo-woo. Like, I want to be a witch in my next life. I'm sure I was in my past life. But in this life, Chinese medicine is very scientific. It's just not your science, right? It's a different science. But there is an understanding and a reason behind everything. And this medicine is held up for over 3,000 years for a reason. So I just want to throw that out there. I wish it was more woo-woo.
I love the woo-woo part.
I love the woo-woos.
But I get it. Like, if you're a girly like me who craves a little balance, like, you want half woo-woo, you want half Western medicine, that's totally fine. But, like, be open. That's my biggest, I guess, piece of advice. Be open. Do not, like, fear what they're telling you and take that as truth. Because there's so much more out here, and we're walking examples of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you could go back and tell yourself something at the start of your fertility journey, what would you tell yourself?
Don't let fear drive you.
Don't let fear drive you. I'm just going to repeat that over and over again because I want everyone to hear this. Do not let fear drive you in your fertility journey, in any aspect of your life. The worst thing you could do is let fear drive you, right? There's reasonable fear, which is our fear of safety, right? Don't jump off an airplane without a parachute. Then there's a fear that's holding you back from reaching your full potential, and never let that fear drive you. Thank you, Megan. That is beautiful. And thank you for coming on here and sharing your story. I know fertility journeys can be really personal, and I really, really appreciate from the bottom of my heart you opening up and sharing with other women. And I really think this will be helpful for other women as well. Before we close out, is there any closing thoughts or comments you want to leave?
Just know that you're also not alone. There are so many of us, I think, that walk into this journey thinking, oh my gosh, this is happening to me. This is all like crumbling down around me. There's so many of us out there that are going through the same thing, but it always feels so personal when you're in it. And there are so many communities that are going to be there for you, willing to accept you with open arms and help you. So don't, again, let fear drive you, because you're not in this alone. And knowing that there are a group of women that you could join to talk about this with, anyone that listens to this podcast today just knows that they're not alone and they can get through this, and we're here to support each other.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And again, thank you for coming on. And Megan is now in her second trimester, and we're wishing her the best with her baby. Can't wait to see pictures.
Thank you so much for having me today, Katherine.
Amazing.